This podcast is brought to you by The Senior Techie, a source of information for seniors and others about technology.
It's great to be here. Normally when we sit down to talk about the senior techie, we're focused on, well, the external stuff.
Right. Things like smartphones with bigger buttons or the latest security apps, the hardware of life.
Exactly. We're looking at the hardware in our hands.
But today, the research is.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's pivoting inward. We're not talking about hardware today. We're talking about the wetware between our ears.
That's it. We're talking about the operating system that most of us just, ignore.
Yeah.
Our emotional life.
And that's such an interesting pivot because for our audience, the 55-plus crowd, the advice on brain health is always so specific.
Oh, yeah.
It's either genetics, which is, let's be honest, a lottery ticket,
Uh-huh.
or it's all about mental gymnastics. I think I have 3 Sudoku apps on my phone right now just because I'm worried about losing my edge.
We all do it. It's the standard advice, right? Treat the brain like a muscle. You do the crosswords, the muscle gets bigger. And while the senior techie definitely agrees that cognitive stuff is important, they're pointing out this massive blind spot.
Okay.
They argue that while we're all busy at the mental gym, we're totally neglecting the emotional gym.
And the claim here, it's not just that ignoring our feelings makes us a bit grumpy. The senior techie is saying what physically alters the brain, the wiring.
That is the headline. We're not just talking about feeling good for your mood. We are talking about actual physical architectural changes in your brain tissue.
That's a huge statement. So, okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because to me, and probably to a lot of people listening, emotions feel like the weather. They just happen to you.
Right.
But you're saying they're more like the architects.
Precisely. And this is where we need to get just a little bit technical to get the why. For a long, long time, science had this idea that the brain was static, it developed, it peaked, and then, it was just a slow slide downhill.
The old use it or lose it idea.
Exactly. But the Senior Techies report is all about neuroplasticity. Now, most of us have heard that word, but I don't think we realize it applies to our emotional centers, too, not just learning a new language.
So what is it exactly?
It's the brain's ability to forge new pathways. We're talking literal physical connections based on what you do and feel.
And the good news is that this doesn't just stop when you turn 60.
It doesn't stop, period. But, and this is the key to the whole conversation, that plasticity is a double-edged sword. Your brain is always rewiring itself. It doesn't really care if it's for the better or for the worse. It just adapts.
Oh, I think I see where you're going with this. So if I spend my day feeling anxious and, scrolling through bad news, my brain is just getting really efficient at building anxiety highways.
That's a perfect way to put it. It reinforces those connections. And the fuel for those negative highways is a hormone we've all heard of, cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Right. Now, in the short term, cortisol is a lifesaver. You see a tiger, cortisol spikes, you run, you survive. But our modern tiger isn't a predator.
No, it's a bill in the mail. Or the 24/7 news cycle.
Yes. And that slow drip, drip, drip of cortisol is what the senior techie calls neurotoxic.
Neurotoxic. That's a strong word.
It is, but it's accurate. The research they highlight points to the hippocampus. That's the part of your brain that forms new memories.
Okay, that's important.
Very. And it turns out the hippocampus is just covered in receptors for cortisol. It's incredibly sensitive. So when it's flooded with chronic stress, those brain cells, they actually shrink, they atrophy.
So wait, when I feel like my memory is slipping and I just blame it on getting older, it might actually be the physical damage from years of stress?
In many cases, yes. But here's the hopeful part. This is where the emotional gym comes in. Because if cortisol shrinks the brain, a calm, connected emotional state releases other things, like something called BDNF that act like fertilizer for your brain cells.
So it helps them grow back.
It helps them grow back. So the Sudoku puzzle by itself isn't enough because you can't puzzle your way out of a cortisol bath.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's talk more about that anxiety, that cortisol bath. The senior techie mentions how fight or flight can become a habit.
It really can.
I feel like for many of us, stress was just the price of admission for being an adult. You didn't complain, you white-knuckled it.
That stoicism was a survival skill. You had to pay the mortgage, raise the kids, deal with your boss. But biologically, if you never flip that off switch, your whole system recalibrates. Your default setting becomes on alert.
And that's where the memory problems pop up. Because if I'm always on alert, I'm looking for threats, not remembering where I put my glasses.
Exactly. Your brain has a limited budget. And if it thinks there's a tiger nearby, even if that tiger is just a worry about a doctor's appointment, It sends all its resources to the fear center. It pulls them away from the part of the brain that does the rational thinking.
So how do we get those resources back? The senior techie has this technique, name it to tame it. Sounds a little catchy, but does it work?
It really does, and the mechanism is just fascinating. When you're feeling that vague, swirling anxiety, your amygdala, your fear center, is just firing on all cylinders.
All emotion, no logic.
Right. But the second you put words to it, the moment you say out loud, I am feeling worried about my health appointment tomorrow, you force your brain to use the prefrontal cortex.
The thinking part of your brain.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're literally building a bridge between the emotional brain and the rational brain. And the research shows that simple act, just labeling the feeling, actually calms down the activity in the amygdala.
It's so counterintuitive. I mean, the stiff upper lip idea says you should just bury the feeling, but the science is saying, no, if you bury it, it eats your hippocampus.
That's the truth of it. Ignoring it lets the cortisol keep running in the background. Naming it turns off the tap. It changes a monster in the dark into a problem on the table.
I like that. A problem on the table is something you can actually deal with.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of monsters in the dark,
Yeah.
let's talk about the other silent issue the senior techie focuses on, isolation.
This is, I think, maybe the most critical piece of data for anyone over 55. We are in what the Surgeon General has called an epidemic of loneliness. And for your brain, loneliness looks an awful lot like chronic stress.
How so?
Well, evolutionarily, being alone was dangerous. If you were cast out from the tribe, you were vulnerable. So being isolated triggers that exact same hypervigilance, that same fight or flight response. Your brain doesn't feel safe.
So you're in a low-level stress state just from being lonely.
Yes. And the data directly links this to cognitive decline. People who report high levels of social isolation have a much, much higher risk of dementia.
That's terrifying. But here's the pushback I always feel. You hear, go connect with people, and you imagine having to go to a crowded party. And for an introvert, or just someone who's tired, that sounds awful.
Oh, totally. And the senior techie is very clear about this. It's not about becoming an extrovert. It's not about the number of friends you have. It's about the quality of the interaction.
The quality, okay.
There's a story in the report about a woman who joined an art class at a local senior center. She'd never painted before, but after a few months, she said her memory felt sharper.
And it wasn't the paint fumes.
No. She said it's not the painting that helps, it's the people. And it wasn't even that they were having deep conversations. It was just the feeling of shared focus, laughing together at a mistake. That signals safety to your nervous system.
And that signal lets the brain finally stand down.
And when it stands down, that neuroplasticity, that growth can kick back in.
That's a relief.
Yes.
So you don't need a best friend you call every day. You just need a book club or a volunteer shift.
Yes. Something with a shared purpose. Volunteering is huge for that. But even a quick, genuine chat with the person at the checkout counter counts. It releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which is basically the anti-cortisol.
Okay, so we have name it to tame it for stress. We have low stakes connection for loneliness. But then senior techie gets into something that sounds, well, a bit soft. Calm and joy.
It does sound a bit soft, doesn't it?
Like something on a greeting card.
Yeah.
But they're saying this is hard science.
It is. Think of it like this. If stress is a poison, then calm is the antidote and joy is the nutrient.
Okay.
And calm doesn't just mean zoning out in front of the TV. True physiological calm is about engaging your rest and digest system.
The opposite of fight or flight.
Exactly. And the senior techie talks about riding the wave. It means resilience isn't about never getting stressed. That's impossible. It's about how quickly you come back to your baseline after the stress hits.
And you can actually train that.
You can, through what they call micro habits. Nobody has an hour to go meditate on a cushion.
I certainly don't.
Right. But what about taking 10 slow, deep breaths before you reply to an annoying email?
We've all heard that advice. But why does it work? Is it just a distraction?
No, it's actually mechanical. When you make your exhale longer than your inhale, you are physically stimulating something called the vagus nerve. That nerve sends a signal straight to your heart to slow down. It's a manual override for your body's stress response.
Wow. A manual override. That's a powerful tool.
It is. Or just taking 5 minutes before bed to focus on your breath, to find the off switch. Because if you sleep in a state of high alert, your brain can't do its nightly cleaning process.
Okay, that covers calm.
Yeah.
What about joy? That just feels like a luxury, a bonus.
That's how we're conditioned to think about it. But the senior techie calls it essential brain food. When you feel a genuine moment of delight laughing at a classic comedy, hearing a song from your youth, Your brain releases a cocktail of dopamine and endorphins.
The feel-good chemicals.
Yes, but they are also focus and motivation chemicals. Dopamine especially, it helps you learn, it helps you pay attention.
And the senior techie had some really specific, almost nostalgic ideas for this.
They did. They mentioned listening to music from your youth. This lights up almost every part of your brain at once. Memory, emotion, movement. It's a full brain workout.
It's amazing how one song from 1975 can just bring it all back.
That is massive neural activation. They also mentioned things like planting herbs on a balcony. Something tactile, sensory, that forces you to slow down.
And writing a note to someone.
Writing a gratitude note, yeah. It combines connection with joy. And the whole point of all these little things, the music, the comedy, the gardening, is to retrain your brain's search algorithm.
Its search algorithm.
Think about it. By default, your brain is programmed to scan for threats. It's a survival thing. You have to actively, consciously program it to scan for good things.
So you're basically training it to look for the good.
You're strengthening the neural pathways for happiness. It's like teaching a search engine to show you cute animal videos instead of car crashes.
That's a perfect analogy.
Ah.
Okay, so we have the theory, we have the science. What's the practical takeaway? The homework assignment.
They call it the emotional check-in challenge, and it's really simple. It has 2 parts.
Okay, walk me through it.
Part 1 is for the morning. Before you do anything else, before you check your phone or the news, you just pause and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now?
That's the name it to tame it thing again.
Exactly. You just notice, I'm a little groggy, I'm feeling hopeful, I'm a bit worried. You just acknowledge it. You stop running on autopilot from the moment you wake up.
And what's part 2?
Part 2 is for the evening. You physically write down one thing that brought you a moment of calm or joy that day.
Just one thing.
Just one. It could be tiny, the way the sun hit the table, a good cup of coffee, a nice chat with your neighbor.
And why write it down? Why not just think about it?
Because the act of writing makes it concrete. It tells your brain, hey, this matters. This is important enough to record. You're helping move that positive memory into long-term storage. You are banking the joy.
And I suppose if you know you have to write something down later, you spend your day actually looking for it.
That's it. You start scanning your day for your one thing. You become a scavenger for good things.
What a great shift in perspective. So, to wrap this all up, we started by saying brain health isn't just about puzzles.
Right. It's about managing that cortisol by naming your stress. It's about finding those low-stakes connections to feel safe.
And it's about actively looking for joy to keep the brain well-fed and growing.
It's about realizing that our feelings are the architects. And whether you're 55 or 85, the construction crew is still on site. You just have to give them better blueprints.
That is such a hopeful way to look at it. It really puts the power back in our hands.
It does.
So I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. We spend so much time curating our diets, right? Watching our cholesterol, eating our vegetables. We manage our schedules to the minute.
A powerful idea.
But what if we were just as intentional about curating our emotional inputs, as picky about who we talk to or what we laugh at, as we are about what we eat for dinner? How much sharper, how much better might we feel a year from now?
It's a lot to think about.
This podcast was brought to you by The Senior Techie. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. If you'd like to keep up with their newsletters, you can subscribe for free by going to subscribe.theseniortechie.com.